Hi, this video, I want to make this video as quick as possible. This is just the next part of, this is the direct follow-on from the last video I did, where I spoke about how my British Transport Police brother got Essex Police to threaten me by email with a harassment warning when he has been abusing me from the beginning. So this is follow on from that. This is the subject of this is I made a complaint about my British Transport Police brother. I use the term brother loosely. Brother in name only. I don't regard him as a member of my family. I don't regard him as family. But he's not the only one. So I made a complaint about him since he's a British Transport Police officer and he was behaving outrageously inappropriately to me. I made a complaint about him to the British Transport Police. I reported him to the British Transport Police. And I was rebuffed by the response from the responding officer of the British Transport Police in an insulting way, really. It was quite insulting and hurtful. I was told he wasn't even going to record my complaint as a complaint. It wasn't even going to be recorded. So this is what this video is about. Before I had taken the step to make a formal complaint about him to the British Transport Police, I had taken the time to visit his workplace, his police station or police office at Aldgate Tube Station. Aldgate Tube Station. It's outside Aldgate Tube Station. I knew it because he had before we buried our mum, he had taken me there, when we were doing stuff. He stopped off there and he took me there, so I knew where it was. And I went there and I spoke to two British Transport Police officers, like supervisor types. They came outside to speak to me, two of them, and I asked if I could speak to his manager. The one that responded to me, James McCauley, temporary detective constable inspector, or maybe not. I think it was temporary detective constable sergeant. Yeah, temporary detective constable sergeant James McCauley. he refused to give me the contact details of his my so-called brother's what do you call it, supervisor, but he said he would pass a message on, and he actually took my name and even took my date of birth. Afterwards, I wasn't comfortable about him taking my date of birth. I thought, why does he need my date of birth? So and he said he would pass on a message to my so-called brother. So that wasn't very good. Him refusing to give me the contact of the supervisor. You're supposed to be able to speak to a police officer supervisor. So I had already informally tried to tell people what he was doing, tell people the way he was behaving, tell people in the police the way he was behaving. Because when I went to that Oldgate station, I had already been suffering a lot, and he had already got Essex Police to send me a threatening harassment warning by email. So it was about 6 months later I got round to making a formal complaint about him on the British Transport Police website. Using their online form. Again, they asked for my date of birth, and they don't need that. I have since learned that they can access our legal fictions corporations, access money that's in the name of our legal fictional corporation. They can access the some sort of account. I think that's what they were doing. But they can also do searches on us by having our date of birth. So I was responded to in a way that was shocking and appalling, in that this British Transport Police Inspector, Nick Brooke, TDCI, Temporary Detective Constable Inspector Nick Brooke, based at their headquarters in Camden Road, which isn't actually that far from where I live, told me in his letter that he wasn't even going to record my complaint as a complaint, let alone investigate it. Because even when they investigate, they investigate and reject and treat you shoddily. He decided to insult me and infuriate me by telling me he wasn't even going to record it as a complaint. I have his letter here, but before I quote from his letter, I'll just speak a few things that I put in my complaint. I put in there that I wanted to make a complaint about him and that I'd previously visited the BTP offices at Aldgate Station to complain to his manager. And it is Temp Detective Sergeant James McCauley 0838 who I spoke to. And I put here that he made Stephen aware that I had complained without passing on the complaint, which I felt he blocked my complaint. He just let him know that I wanted to make a complaint about him. One of the things I put in my complaint was that he made veiled threats to me because he is a police officer. He was arrogant because he's a police officer. He was even trying to bully and threaten me because he's a police officer, even though we weren't even in Britain or the UK at that time. We were in Nigeria to bury our mother, and he was still trying to intimidate me that he's a police officer. He said about our sister, he said to me, "Don't call her that. I arrest people in London for saying that." Really? You arrest people for saying one word? What an arrogant asshole. What a dickhead. Don't call her that. I arrest people in London for saying that. We were out of the country at the time for our mother's burial. He tried to, quote unquote, play police with me when we weren't even in his jurisdiction. He has tried to use police domination techniques on me. That's some of my complaints. That's related to him acting in a certain way towards me because he's a policeman. That I'm justified in doing that. But also, he had basically committed fraud and committed perjury and fraud in order to manipulate me out of being an executor. He had enlisted a really crooked devil solicitor named Richard Roberts, director of Geddy and Sons, who invited me to his office and abused me in his office. So now I'm gonna quote from the. I'm gonna quote from the letter sent to me by this Nick Brooke, British Transport Police. He said, I am deeply sorry to hear about your death of your mother. However, I do not feel that it is appropriate to record a complaint in relation to this matter or for BTP to become involved. The matters you have raised relate to personal family issues and are not connected with your brother's DCI role within the British Transport Police. You have a right to appeal this non-recording decision to the IPCC within 28 days of the receipt of this letter if you disagree with our decision. So, he said, the matters you have raised relate to personal family issues. Personal family issues. It's just a personal family issues. He's committing perjury and fraud in order to remove me as an executor of my own mother's will, a legally named executor, and it's just a personal family issue. What bollocks. That's absolute bollocks. And even uh, the a sergeant or inspector, whatever, who dealt with a complaint I made about the Essex policeman, Daniel Littlefield, who sent me a threatening email, a harassment warning by email. I made a complaint about him, and in his response, the sergeant that responded said, uh, he said, saying it is the uh, the BTP have said it's a family issue because I raised that issue. I raised that. Uh, I raised uh, that issue in my complaint. I said the BTP said it was a family issue. So how come when this Daniel Littlefield, PC Daniel Littlefield, is sending me a nasty, threatening email on my brother's behalf? Why doesn't he? Why didn't he tell my brother? It's just a family issue. It's just a family affair. I put that in my complaint about Littlefield. So, in response, the sergeant that dealt with the complaint responded. He said, saying it is a family issue is a decision the British Transport Police, aka Nick Brooke, has made, but it is not necessarily the correct one. So that's a member of another police actually saying they just decided that they just use that as an excuse that it's a family issue, but it doesn't mean that's correct. That's someone in another police saying that. It's just what they said to dismiss your case, to to treat you like crap. It was very, very insulting of this temporary uh, detective constable inspector Nick Brooke to say that. And he said, I'm deeply sorry for the death of your mother. Rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. Uh, so that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that even another policeman of another police force said them saying it's a family issue and using that to dismiss you is a decision they made, obviously, as an excuse to dismiss me insultingly. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's the correct one. So he was saying that to justify uh, Littlefield sending me an aggressive, nasty, threatening email threatening me with harassment. So, and not saying it's a family affair. One, one says it's a family affair, a family affair, as an excuse. And that's the police force that he's my brothers are working with, and another that my brother had before me contacted them, Essex police, his local police, about me. They've gone viciously after me. This Littlefield has gone viciously after me. And it's my so-called brother that has orchestrated this from the beginning. Seeking for me not to be involved as an executor, going to a solicitor with his white English solicitor sister-in-law, and secretly, without me, and telling them he wants to be the only executor. And then he later came back to me and afterwards and said, "Oh, this solicitor said I should do it all. I should be the only executor. He said you and your uncle should step down." He never said that. I found out that later that he went there with his English solicitor sister-in-law, Emily Copson, now Emily Kapoor, and she's the one that's got that solicitor for him, and said, he's gone there and said he wants to be the only executor, and never ever told me that. It said it's not connected with your brother's role within the British Transport Police. So that suggests that a policeman can do anything they like off duty, commit fraud, commit perjury, maybe even be physically aggressive with people off duty. And if a complaint is made to his work, they can just say, well, he wasn't with the police at the time. That's rubbish. That's absolute rubbish, because people can get in trouble with their work for things they do outside work, or maybe that's not the case with the police. Maybe you know, they cover for each other. And at the end, he talks some fake rubbish. I fully understand that the issue you have raised is important to you, and I would like to express my regret you felt cause to complain in this on this occasion, as I regard good relations between officers of this force and all members of the public as a matter of paramount importance. Yeah, right. I can tell you understand that the issue I've raised is important to me. I can tell. I would like to express my regret that you felt cause to complain on this. It's just bullshit. It's just mealy mouthed fake, as I regard good relations between officers of the force and all members of the public as a matter of. You regard good relations. That's why you don't even record my complaint as a complaint. And you tell me that I have the right to appeal to the IPCC, knowing, so you hand me over to them, knowing I didn't know at the time, but you knew, Nick Brook, that they would further abuse me, and further insult me, and not just dismiss my complaint, but dismiss my complaint with an insult, in an insulting way. This is the corruption. And in the British Transport Police, if you, they have their marketing that you hear in the speakers if you're on the train, you know, see it, say it, sorted. I saw it, I said it, but I certainly didn't have it sorted. I found this Nick Brooks response infuriating and upsetting, because I was already suffering serious abuse by this so-called brother. I'd been suffering serious abuse by him and by the solicitors he had recruited at no cost to him, using my mother's estate, and yet using these white solicitors to abuse me. So my own brother used white solicitors to make my life hell. He should be ashamed of himself. He should be absolutely ashamed of himself. My life had been made hell by him for at least 10 years because of what he did. So that's that is to show you the police, the British police. One set of police send me a nasty, vicious, threatening harassment warning by email at the behest of my so-called brother, who's a crook. Yet when I tried to report this so-called police brother, oh no, oh no, I'm not even going to record this as a complaint, let alone I'm not going to speak to him. I'm not going to investigate it whatsoever. There's probably other things I'd like to say, but it's gone on long enough. Let me just think. That's enough. That's it.